all. Welcome to the HubSpot Admin Hug. Today's hug is what you are worth as a HubSpot admin, salary and advancement insights from HubSearch with Jason Azocar, CEO and founder of HubSearch. Today, Jason will discuss key trends and insights gained while compiling the newest edition of the HubSearch Salary Guide. Jason, welcome back. Thank you for coming to the hug. We appreciate it. We can't wait to hear all of these amazing insights. So I'm going to let you go ahead.
Okay. Lovely, Deanna. Thank you so much. Congrats to Kyle when you see this video. Hey everyone. Great to be back. This is one of my favorite events. I did something similar to this talk in October, and this is meant to be like the half year update. So let me do a quick intro. Deanna did an amazing job, minus the first attempt at my last name, but I'm Jason Azocar. I'm the founder and CEO at HubSearch. Very proud HubSpot alum. So my relevant story for this conversation started in 2012 when I joined HubSpot. So I joined the tech recruiting team at HubSpot in 2012, ultimately led that function. So my team and I were responsible for all of the product and engineering hiring for North America. And by the time I left, Dublin also, which was really cool. They opened the HubSpot office just before I left. And I made a whole presentation and appeal on why they really needed to send me there for a month. And it actually worked, which was amazing. So I got to spend a month in Dublin on HubSpot's dime, which was pretty fantastic. Fast forward a couple of years, my co-founders and I started HubSearch. We looked out into the market and we saw what we thought was a really cool opportunity, which essentially was, how the heck is there not a recruiting organization that's devoted to the HubSpot ecosystem? And that was the first moment. We remember when we started doing the research for the thing, we were like, this must exist. There's no way this doesn't exist. There are several companies, big successful companies, that do this for Salesforce. And somehow no one has done this for HubSpot yet. And maybe the fact that I worked there will help get the thing off the ground. And fast forward 4 years, we've got an unbelievable team of 17 international between the US and Colombia. We're about 4 years into this thing. We've made over 250 placements at this point. We've worked with over 200 clients. And I think that's important to say because that's where we're going to get all this. That's where we get all the data from that we're going to talk through. So one of the most valuable, most impactful piece of content that we've ever created is the HubSpot Ecosystem Salary Guide that I hope everybody here has seen. We made it, really for our candidate audience, right? When we think about our audience, we've got the companies that we want to work with and that need HubSpot talent. But just as importantly, we've got you guys, the HubSpot talent, right? And this salary guide is really built for you guys to do a couple of things, to share data around what we're seeing, trends, insights, all the stuff we're going to talk about today. But one of the things that we realized early on in this thing was that there was a lot of people that didn't understand their own value in the market. They were getting underpaid, weren't quite valued where they should be. And that was a big push for this type of content. We thought it was really important to publish what we were seeing so that companies know where they need to be. That was a big part of it. And so that people who are HubSpot practitioners who are in this world, you guys understand, like, hey, I'm making X. I really should be at Y. I need to go ask for a raise, or maybe it's time for the next adventure. So that was kind of the point of this content. I hope everybody has seen it. So this will be the release we're about to do will be, I want to say, the 4th version. So I hope everybody has seen a version of it. The 2022 version is still published. It's out there. If you go to hubsearch.com and check out our blog space, you can get it there. I'm going to share my screen in a minute here and show you the not quite finished yet 2023, like the first half of 2023 release. So forgive me that it's not this beautiful, totally finalized piece of like audience ready content, but you guys are getting a sneak preview on this thing that's going to get released toward the end of this week, maybe first thing next week when we got it fully ready to go. And then just in terms of quick agenda, just that I don't want to talk too much just about what we found. I did that in October. So I'll share what we've seen updated. I would definitely want to talk about the numbers in terms of average salary because we've seen that change meaningfully, which is important. I really want to talk about the way that we've seen the path into HubSpot admin start to continue to change. I was saying to Deanna before we got started, we've made some pretty good predictions about this space, and there were some things we were definitely wrong about. And I think that's important to talk about. So I'll talk about like what we got right, what we got wrong, and why it's important. And I think a really important thing to talk about too, and it came up beforehand, was when we're talking about the Super Admin Bootcamp, is we've seen some really important and meaningful changes in the training available to HubSpot admins in particular, and HubSpot technology focused people. So I'll talk about that also.
Absolutely.
Cool. And please jump in with questions. I hope most of this thing is driven by your questions, Deanna. When I share my screen, obviously I can't see the thing. So interrupt me at any moment.
You bet. You guys don't forget to put those in there and upvote any great ones so that we make sure they get to the top.
And then the last thing I'll say, just in terms of data sharing, after this thing, my team and I are going to put together an email that'll show you the landing page that we're putting together for the new salary guide. Basically, we're going to build a thing for everybody who's interested to go get all the stuff I'm about to talk about. We'll send that to Deanna, and she'll disperse it amongst the audience.
Perfect.
Cool. All right, let me share my screen. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, can you see this?
You got it.
All right, so like I said, you guys are getting a true sneak peek of our almost done, but not quite totally done first half of 2023 HubSpot Ecosystem Salary Guide release, which a ton of work goes into this, and we're happy to do it. This is like I said, this is one of the primary ways, outside of helping people get their dream job. Like, this is one of the primary ways that we can provide value back to this ecosystem that we love so much. So I'm going to talk about where we get the data. We have thousands of conversations annually, right? My recruiters are constantly talking to people in this ecosystem. I'm sure many people on this call have spoken to my recruiters. They're unbelievable. They're amazing. They're so laser focused on helping people land their dream job. So we have lots and lots of conversations with candidates or potential candidates, and we document everything we hear. Hey, what are you making today? What do you want to make? What are you seeing in the market? What is your company paying? Like, we're listening for that type of data because it's really important for this type of content. And then on the flip side, we're having hundreds, if not thousands, of conversations with potential clients of ours, right? So companies that engage with us and say, hey, we need somebody awesome, and they have to know HubSpot. And of course, through those conversations, we're asking the same questions. We're going, okay, what's your pay range? How does it differ based on location and seniority and breadth of skill across the platform? And we document all that stuff. So I won't read this to you guys word for word, but that's where this comes from. And when we started doing this a couple of years ago, we realized, like, this is an absolute wealth of super unique data that, as far as I know, nobody else in the world is reporting out on this stuff, because we're the only company doing this thing in this niche. We're the only HubSpot-specific recruiting org in the world. So we've got this really cool monopoly on this data, which will change. At some point, there will be a true competitor to HubSearch, but it doesn't exist yet. So one of the things that you'll see in this new release is, pay attention to the order, right? HubSpot admins and technologists, we very intentionally put front and center, because it has become the thing we get asked to work on the most, which I want to talk about for a second, because that's definitely different. That has evolved over the last couple of years. We've only been at this thing for 3.5, 4 years. When we first started HubSearch, which really wasn't that long ago, late 19, early 20, the vast majority of what we got asked to recruit for was digital marketing, right? Some flavor of digital marketer, either the full stack or an SEO specialist or a PPC person or a content-y person, but some form of inboundy, HubSpot-y digital marketer. And there's a bunch of different flavors of that, but that's really what we got asked to work on. And we started to see that shift about 1.5 years ago. And that shift has become even more clear and obvious in the last 8 or 10 months. The vast majority of what we get asked to work on now is much more in the technologist bucket, which includes HubSpot admin, of course, sort of at the highest tier, but it's a big bucket. And I want to talk about that, because in the context of today, when I talk about HubSpot admin /technologist, I'm talking about a bunch of different types of people, right? I want to use HubSpot admin has a definition and is a thing, but I want to make this more of an inclusive conversation to definitely include aspiring HubSpot admins, right? Maybe somebody who isn't quite there yet, has just started on their journey. Maybe they were, maybe you're somebody who was in a sales ops seat or a marketing ops seat or a digital marketing seat for a year or 2 years or 3 years or whatever, or you're deeper into your career and you've chosen to go a different path. I want to include that type of person in the HubSpot admin category. The way that we have the true definition of HubSpot admin is a little bit different. So the admin role itself, and you guys probably know this, has really become synonymous with CRM utilization, right? Most of our clients, when they say HubSpot admin, are first and foremost talking about a Sales Hub expert. And of course, the next things out of their mouth are, oh, and they need to know Marketing Hub too, and Service Hub also. And if they know Ops Hub, that'd be great. Oh, and if they can do some CMS work, that would be fantastic. And we're going, okay, we get it. The wider, the broader, the better. But first and foremost, HubSpot admin has really become the person who is primarily responsible for an organization's data. And I think that's important because it's definitely not a digital marketer. This is somebody who could have been a digital marketer, but it's probably more like somebody who has grown up through the ops channel, marketing ops, sales ops, rev ops. That's the type of person, the type of perspective that generally lands in the HubSpot admin seat. HubSpot admins work really closely with marketing teams because it's an ops role, right? You're the person managing and responsible for the systems and the data to best support sales teams, marketing teams, customer success teams, which is why there's so much crossover between HubSpot admin and RevOps. Most people's definition would put those things very, very close. I think HubSpot admin is a little bit more of a true CRM owner that's having to think about things like permissioning, access, security, data structure, accessibility, the stuff that a RevOps person would see peripherally, but isn't like their primary thing.
Michael said, so there is hope for a sales guy that is now a HubSpot admin by accident.
Oh, 100%. So that's actually a really interesting path, right? If somebody who really understands the motions of a sales team and what that type of person needs to be successful from a data and systems standpoint is just a really cool perspective.
Sure.
Right? Because the HubSpot admin is probably most closely tied to a sales team. Right? One of the things we really see a lot of now, and this is back to the idea of we saw a lot of marketing. Now it's a lot more the admin, RevOpsy, technologist bucket. HubSpot's getting pulled up market. That shouldn't surprise anybody. HubSpot forever was very directly geared to mom and pop, smaller organizations, and they still do that. But when they rebranded, I think might have been Inbound 19 when they changed their slogan to like the CRM solution for scaling companies, I think was the language or something like that. That was a very clear indication that they were going more up market. Right? And HubSpot's never going to be the best enterprise solution, right? IBM's never going to use HubSpot. Amazon's never going to use HubSpot. But mid-market companies, right? 15, 20 to $100 million substantial mid-market companies, more and more are starting to adopt HubSpot. And that's going to be the key audience for the admin in years to come. It's just starting right now. Like HubSpot admin didn't exist 2 years ago. I actually think right now is the very best time to be for people to be on this path to HubSpot administrator. It's an unbelievable opportunity. There are going to be lots and lots of companies that can afford sophisticated technology professionals, HubSpot admin, over the next couple of years, especially as HubSpot continues to laser focus on the mid-market.
Jeanette says admin is typically a term used for lower level employees. Is that an issue here? Do you find
that an issue here? Not necessarily. So it would depend on what you mean by lower level employees. So the way that we generally see it within our clients, admin is usually a more senior person, right? So we would see something like And there can be stratification across an administration team. It's just it so depends on the company. And by the way, titles in our world are super non-determinate. Like
Very fluid.
the exact same human being with the exact same skills at one company is a sales ops person, at the next company is a rev ops person, at the next company is a HubSpot admin, at the next company is a technologist. So the admin bucket is a little bit broad, but usually what we see is somebody comes up through, it's like the ops trajectory, marketing ops, sales ops, they're a technologist, and then they work their way into the HubSpot administrator, which based on what we've seen over the last year or two is becoming a pretty senior role. And I'll show you the numbers on that in a second.
Okay. Yeah, there was some chat about it being a non-tech reference to maybe an assistant or someone who's, helping out versus in the technical world, it's something completely different.
Yeah, that's true. So that's a good clarification point. So the lens through which I'm talking here, let me talk about the type of company that is most likely going to need the type of admin that I'm talking about here. It's probably not a partner. It's probably not a HubSpot channel partner agency, right? They have HubSpot channel partner agencies will have the same types of capabilities that a HubSpot admin would bring, but it's probably within a couple of different people. Like they'll have a sales ops person, a marketing ops person. It's more broken down. HubSpot admin is more likely at a HubSpot customer, right? In-house, brand side, like inside of an organization. And it's the person who's most directly responsible for getting all of the goodness out of HubSpot, right? Which has really started to mean the data. If you know the Marketing Hub, great, but there's a marketing team that knows Marketing Hub. HubSpot admin for a mid-market company is the person who controls the CRM.
Kind of to that point, I'm going to introduce my own question.
Right.
I work with a lot of different clients who don't necessarily have the bandwidth to have their own admin on board. So they bring me on as like a fractional admin where, I'm helping them out until they can get to the point of having their own admin. So I see that, at least in my world, a little bit as well.
Cool. And again, it's really hard to paint one picture of it because every person who identifies as a HubSpot administrator is going to have different strengths, different sets of experience. So, there is definitely not a one size fits all admin.
For sure.
Some admins won't be qualified for a $50 million mid-market organization. And some people fit that well, but would not be a great fit for a smaller company that's maybe on a pro account. Like the other thing is HubSpot admin is it more and more in our world, meaning knows how to navigate enterprise portals. Right. That's one of the things we see more frequently is that if we're talking to a company about an admin, they're going, oh, and we're on enterprise. It's incredibly expensive. Our HubSpot bill is $9,000 a month or whatever it is. And it's become clear to us that to really get the most out of that spend, we need a human being who can just drive the heck out of the system and get us all the ROI possible from this platform, from this expensive subscription.
Jacqueline brought up a good point, maybe to clarify, either on your resume or when you're talking to people, admin in business is administrative versus maybe when you're meaning administrator in the tech world. So
100%, right? This is HubSpot admin is sort of like saying database admin, right? Really what we're saying here is it's a specific database administrator, which is a technology title versus like HR admin, for example, which would generally indicate somebody probably earlier career. HubSpot admin is a senior person.
Absolutely.
All right. So let me jump down and talk about some of the numbers that we've seen. And actually, before I do that, let me talk about this quickly because I think this is really important. The other thing that every single person that you might talk to has a different definition of entry level and junior and mid and senior. It means something different to everybody. So this is how we define it, right? Entry level really means you're in your first year in your thing. It's not necessarily first year out of school. It could be first year. I was a salesperson and I went into ops. Okay, you might have been a salesperson for 5 years. When you switch into a whole new career path, you've now become entry level again. You just have, you're doing a new thing. Junior is about 1 to 3 years. Mid is 4 to 7 ish. And we tend to see senior mean 8+. And then from there you get into leadership and senior leadership. But that's about the average points of the escalation of titles and career rung. And that's important because this is how we talk about salary. This is how we talk about how do you start to think about what you're worth. So here's what we're seeing. And I'm happy to answer questions on this because this is we try to make this data as simple and easily digestible as we can. But there's going to be a lot of what ifs around this data. But in general, what we're seeing, there's no such thing as an entry-level HubSpot administrator. Right? If you're entry level in this world, you can't really claim to be an admin yet. Admin has to mean you've got some mastery. Like you've really gotten very strong inside of the technology and the tools available at least Sales Hub, probably Sales Hub Enterprise. So junior is at about 75 to 85. We actually don't see much of that. Right. Generally, what we see is if a company is coming to us and saying, I need a HubSpot admin, what they're really saying is we need somebody excellent. Like we know we need to invest in somebody quite technical, somebody who has seen a bunch of different business cases and use cases for how to do tricky, sophisticated, complex work in HubSpot and how to solve business problems with HubSpot. So usually what we see is mid and senior. And mid-career, like I said, in that 4-ish to 7-ish year range, 85 to 125 is a really good midpoint. And it depends on an awful lot of stuff. I talk about this with companies all the time. Experience and skill level aren't actually the thing that define price tag for an individual, which is totally counterintuitive, right? You would think, okay, the better, more senior, more experienced, more skilled the person is, the more expensive they are. Not necessarily. The number one driver is what company you happen to work at. Right? It's just every company has different salary bands. Right? We talk to people all the time who are maybe, an admin with 3.5 years making more than an admin with 6.5 years. And their skills might be totally on par, but the 3.5 year person may work for a bigger company with better salary bands, more ability to compensate. So that's just an interesting point that I like to put out there.
John says those salaries will be a serious shock to companies who think that a complex tool like HubSpot can be managed by someone earning south of 60K, with lots of reactions to that.
I couldn't agree more. Okay, so I'll tell you something I say all the time on calls that I do with potential clients. When we get a form fill, for example, let's say a prospect comes to the HubSearch website and they fill out a form, whatever. One of the questions, of course, we do some data gather and we're like, okay, what's the thing you need? What is your salary range? I see all the time, hey, we need a HubSpot technologist or an admin at 60K. It's totally common. And that I have to be the bearer of bad news, right? I end up being the bearer of bad news to companies all the time. And I have to say to organizations, like, respectfully, you're dreaming. That's not the world we live in, right? If you said, hey, I need a really intelligent, really smart, really savvy generalist, okay, you might be able to get away with that, maybe. But the minute you say, and that person has to have real mastery inside of HubSpot, the number goes up by 50%.
Yep.
Yeah, like we don't, as a kind of a corollary piece of data, like we at HubSearch, we don't have a minimum, for example. Like we're never out there saying, hey, we're only going to take on a search if it's whatever salary or above. But 60, 65, somewhere in there does end up being a really important like demarcation point for us, because that's about the salary that we start to hear people able to talk about doing sophisticated, meaningful work inside of HubSpot.
Sure.
We talk to amazing people who make less than that, but they haven't done the specific in-platform work yet. And as soon as they have, they're instantly worth much more.
For sure. Absolutely.
So
Once you get your fingers in there.
This is what we see. Mid-career is about 85 to 125. Senior, like we said, is defined in this context as about 8 years plus. Of course, there's variability there, but yeah, 125 plus. I mean, look, if I'll give you the sort of the upper end example. If you're, let's say you're the HubSpot admin, like the HubSpot technology person, like the person responsible for the product at a SaaS company that's solidly mid-market. Let's say they're doing, I don't know, $60 million in revenue. No question, you're somewhere in the 125, 135, 140 range. Like that is absolutely where you should be if you're at a company that large. Because look, let's also say something important. That's a hard job, right? I mean, you're probably supporting a fairly large sales team, a large marketing org, an ops and reporting org. There's a data security team that's leaning on you. That's a hard gig, which is why the numbers get pretty big pretty fast, because there's not a lot of people that can do that job. It's getting better every day. And that's a good segue to what I want to talk about in a second here, which is the training environment, like the training ecosystem. But there are not a lot of people that are truly qualified to go be the HubSpot product owner for a $50 million SaaS company, let's say. That's a really rare skill set, which is why the numbers get pretty big pretty fast.
Sure. We have a couple questions on how the numbers translate to the UK and European salaries and Latin market.
Good question. Okay, I think I can stop sharing. I think that was basically everything I wanted to show. Yeah. All right. Let me stop the share and I'll jump back in with you guys. Okay, here we go. Cool. Okay. So how do they translate? It's so different by country, which I realize is not like the most sophisticated and specific answer. Latin America, I can talk about in a little more depth because HubSearch, my team is in that motion right now. So we actually did our first acquisition. We acquired a recruiting company in Colombia in December, actually started by another former HubSpotter. So HubSearch Latin America is live. Super exciting. It's a thing that we literally just spun up. So for the first time, we're talking to HubSpot partners and HubSpot customers all across Latin America. So this is research we're doing right now. The numbers that we see in Latin America are generally 40 to 50% less on salary than you would see in the US market. That's about what we're seeing. So if you're $100,000 skill set in the US I'll use Colombia as the example because it's the country that I know best based on the research we've done. Something like a $50,000 annual salary.
Okay.
Something like that. And again, there's a ton of variability. Europe, UK is reasonably similar to the US. Maybe it depends. I mean, look, if you're in London, it's exactly the same as if you're in Boston or New York. Like you're going to get the same numbers. If you're outside of one of the major UK cities, maybe it's a 10 or 15% discount, but it's pretty similar.
Okay. Yeah. There was another question about German, Austrian, Swiss, Scandinavian.
I don't know yet. Well, full candor, I don't know yet. We're not live there yet. So this opportunity for us to do Latin America kind of landed in our lap in November, December. So we jumped on that. Before the end of this year, we've got to figure out how to go do our thing in Europe. We're not there yet. Yeah. The vast majority of our work, I mean, all of our work before November of this year was US, Canada. We just went live in Latin America. We got our first 3 Latin American clients, all HubSpot partners in the last 8 weeks. So it's a very new, very fresh, it's super exciting. It's awesome. I'm pumped about it. Europe is next.
Perfect. Hear that, Europe? You're next.
Europe. We'll be there soon.
Awesome. Let's see. We got some questions here on, get back up a little bit.
Cool.
Are these figures base salary or total, and are the number of years indicative of time spent in the specific role or the more general career years? So you kind of talked about a little bit about that, but
yep, definitely based on years in the role, in the seat, or something very similar, right? I mean, if again, just to keep using the same example I did, let's say you were a sales ops person and you did that for 3 years and then became an admin. Well, that 3 years counts. But it just is different. Like I know this isn't maybe the most ideal answer for some people, but if you were doing something very different, it's probably not going to count toward those numbers, right? I mean, if you were a seller, right? There was a question from somebody who had been doing true sales. It probably isn't going to get counted in those numbers because it really is. I mean, is it valuable? Of course it is. Is it great context? Of course it is, but it is just it's a different discipline. It's just totally, it's a different muscle.
Sure. Yeah.
And those numbers are base salary. So if you're at a company that can afford all the cool fringe stuff, like, performance bonus, equity, I mean, all that stuff should be considered above and beyond extra bonus, which great, fantastic. Perfect. But yeah, the numbers we report out on are our salary.
Awesome. And we had what ratio of user to admin do you usually see at approximate $100 million companies?
Oh man, that's such
very
a good
specific.
Question.
That's a very specific. Like, what are your numbers?
It's so variable because $100 million company could be 200 employees and could be 2,000 employees. So it really, really depends. At a $100 million company, my hunch would be they've got, that's probably a pretty well built out function. You've got a marketing team that probably has a marketing ops person on it. You've got like, whatever, I'm just going to make up some numbers, 6 or 8 people on a digital inbound content driven like growth team. The HubSpot admin is probably leading something like a RevOps function, right? They're probably, at a company that size, RevOps and HubSpot admin are probably pretty interchangeable. That person is responsible for how do I optimize the systems and the data that the sales team needs, that the ops team needs, that my reporting analysts need, all the stuff that comes through HubSpot. Because the other thing that we also see, and it's a little bit of a one-off. I mean, it's not the most common use case, but there are plenty of companies out there that have a HubSpot admin and a Salesforce admin. We've interacted with a bunch of those companies, right? They're so all in on Marketing Hub, for example. They're on Marketing Hub Enterprise. It's the baseline of how they do lead acquisition. And they go, we've got some great digital marketers, but we need someone to run Marketing Hub, like the guts of the system, the actual product. But Salesforce is our CRM. So then you actually have this really interesting structure where you've sort of got system admins as a shared resource team. So like HubSpot admin, Salesforce admin work really closely together to make sure the business has all the data and system support they need across a bunch of different disciplines.
That's a good point. Someone said, what are the numbers for HubSpot admin team lead? So managing other admins. I would add on to that and say just admin lead.
Yeah, you're in that senior category almost certainly.
Yeah.
Those numbers that you saw, we tried the ranges are broad enough to include manager and non-manager.
Okay.
Right. So if let's say you're in the senior 8+ year category and you don't have direct reports, you're probably closer to that 125, 130 mark. If you're leading a team of sophisticated admins and you're directly responsible for their work output and accountability, all that stuff, it's probably, plus 10 or 15%, 130, 140, somewhere in that range. That's another big driver of salary differential. It's like, number one, what company are you working at? Number two, are you a trained manager? Like, are you managing people through an actual management process?
Right. People and systems.
People and systems, exactly right. Because I talked about the admin being a really hard job. We'll introduce also leading a team of other admins. Again, that's a hard gig. There are very few, and we see that search on a semi-regular basis. It's not the most common because most companies don't have a team of admins, but that's a really hard thing. I mean, a senior HubSpot administrator who can lead a team of, it probably isn't, at least in our experience, it's probably not other admins. They probably have like maybe a developer and a technologist on their team. So it becomes its own like little sort of technology services group.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
Let's see. We've got, we talked about that. How much overlap do you see between Salesforce and HubSpot? They started out as a Salesforce admin with certification and accidentally ended up in HubSpot. So it knowing both is probably a good benefit, right?
That's a wildly valuable skill set. Yeah, I mean, if you can claim to be a Salesforce and HubSpot admin, insanely valuable, especially because lots of companies use both.
Right.
There's lots of companies out there that are using HubSpot for maybe Marketing Hub and Service Hub. And that stuff pipes into Salesforce as their CRM of record. Well, then you're unbelievably dangerous for those types of positions. We actually hear that a lot. We hear from bigger companies, hey, we need a HubSpot admin. Really, the priority is HubSpot. But God, if you could just maybe find us somebody who also knows some Salesforce, like that's the unicorn. And we're going, well, it's not a unicorn. Lots of those people exist. They're very difficult to find and recruit because they're almost certainly working at a cool, interesting company, making good money. So that's why we exist. Our job is to go engage with that person and help them make the change to their next thing. Like that's literally what we do, because you cannot just go post that job. Right? And that's the value we bring to our clients, right? We're going, you're so unlikely to get somebody who's that specific to apply to a job post because they don't need to. They've got recruiters applying to them all the time going, hey, we got this awesome thing. Would you maybe be interested? Because lots of companies are searching for it.
Absolutely. And I think this is going to push you over to your training discussion, but is there any, I've been taking certifications, but wondering if there are any specific ones to focus on additional areas of focus. So I'm going to just pipe in and say the HubSpot Academy is definitely a great place to start. And if you are new, 100%. You can't go wrong just hitting start on any of the hubs
100%.
and watching all of those. And then we've got Jen posted the link for the Super Admin Bootcamp. That's also a great resource. But I know, Jason, you've got some ideas as well for training. So I'm going to let you take that.
So this has sort of become a pet project. Project isn't the right word. It's become a thing I'm paying an awful lot of attention to for a couple of reasons. Deanna, you hit the nail on the head. Academy first and foremost, right? It's like, first of all, the price tag is right? It's like there's unbelievable value in there, and that's free. It's like do that first. Of course, start there. I love the Academy. It's exceptional, but it's not the thing that's going to turn you from an early career admin into a truly advanced senior administrator. It's an unbelievable on-ramp. It's an exceptional way to start that journey, but it's not the thing. And look, this is exactly why the Super Admin Bootcamp exists. And I think that's so much of what Kyle's been talking about and working on. Like, the Academy is amazing, but it's the first, 30 yards of the 100-yard journey, let's say, which is just a weird football analogy, but it's the best I could do in the moment. And it's good. It's useful. I say anytime I talk about this, I'm like, always start with the free stuff in the Academy. If your goal is to make a living as a HubSpot administrator or something akin to an administrator, like a senior technologist, any of the stuff that kind of fits in that bucket, you're probably going to need to do a paid certificate course or some sort of more advanced thing. And I've talked to a bunch of companies that have tried to pull this off. And there's really only one that I think is doing a good job. So if anybody hasn't seen Master the Flywheel, it is the first. Bootcamp isn't exactly the right word. It's really a live and sophisticated training program. It's the first one that I think is really doing a fantastic job. I mean, look, the Super Admin Bootcamp is amazing too. I'm not saying don't do that, but I think they need to coexist for a couple of reasons. So the Master the Flywheel thing. So they're a partner. We've actually partnered with them because I've been on this like years-long search for somebody who's going to do this the right way, because frankly, it's a massive business opportunity. At some point, there's going to be an independent organization that figures out how to really create HubSpot technical talent. And in my opinion, it's Master the Flywheel. So we've partnered with those guys. They've got, it's not beginner. I'm going to forget the word, but there's an early career course, there's an intermediate course, and there's an advanced course. And it gets really sophisticated. It gets really deep. I mean, there's a deep dive admin training, and they're live, and you get real, like, actual instructor-led curriculum. It's super valuable. When we send out, Deanna, when I send you that email to forward the list, sure, I'll include a bunch of information about those guys. When the classes start, what the pricing looks like. We actually got, they gave us some discount codes. So if that's something of interest to anybody, we'll give you the discount stuff so you can save a couple $100.
We'll pass that on.
But I think that's really important. Like, fast forward a couple of years, because this HubSpot admin thing, like this wave of need and talent, is growing substantially. Like it's becoming the main focus of, especially for a company like ours. I think when you fast forward a couple of years, you're going to have a couple of key certificates. Like you're going to have to be able, when you're going up for a job and you're competing with other people, you're going to have to be able to say, I'm HubSpot certified. I've got the HubSpot admin cert, and I've got the Master the Flywheel advanced admin certificate. I think those are the two programs that are clearly differentiating themselves as like the thing that means I did a hard thing. I took a hard test. I went through a difficult thing, and I proved to somebody who knows their stuff that I can do sophisticated, complicated work in an enterprise portal.
Yeah, no,
I think it's going to be essentially required in years to come, especially for these bigger mid-market companies that can go afford to hire really, really strong people. So check those guys out. I know they're running a thing right now where they'll pay for your inbound ticket. They'll pay for your hotel and your flight. It's a really cool contest. We'll send out a bunch of that stuff with the email that we send with the salary guide and as the follow-up to this.
Sounds good. Jen also pointed out that the technical certifications, if you're a HubSpot partner, unfortunately not available to non-partners, but those, if you are a HubSpot partner and you are looking for some trainings, there are some technical ones for partners.
For sure.
And we did have somebody point out the hugs. I'm a hug hopper. I will join every hug. I want all the data. I want all the information. If somebody's got something they can share with me that I can learn, I am there to watch and listen and learn. That's why I agreed to help out with this hug, because I wanted to see more speakers, more content like this that helps me be a better version of me. So absolutely, just go to the events. If you go to the admin events page, you can back out to see all events that are hugs and just join them all. They're free.
100%. I mean, they're right. That's the baseline of the act. Like, do all the free things, because of course. And then, like I said, if you're somebody, and I'm sure this resonates with a lot of people listening right now. Like if you're somebody who's going, this is my career path, this is how I'm going to make money, this is how I'm going to earn a living, and you really want to differentiate yourself and be able to go compete for those higher paying 120, 125K plus jobs, you're going to have the certifications. You're going to have to be able to say, I'm HubSpot certified and I'm Master the Flywheel certified. Like those are the things that'll be on your LinkedIn profile, like will make you stand out.
Absolutely. Oh, and we've got somebody that pointed out the Sprocketeers. Yes, definitely join the Discord. There's amazingly talented human beings over there. Go sap their brains.
That's just, you're right. That's a little bit of a different category, but that's just an insanely valuable resource.
For sure.
Right. I mean, it's like, it's so cool to see that kind of thing spring up in this ecosystem.
Absolutely. Very cool. Okay. We got some more questions in the QA tab.
Love it.
How often do you see job changes for these roles? What's an average tenure?
That's a great question. I want to answer it with something other than it depends. Oh man, it really depends. It's at least a couple of years. It's not a thing that tends to be revolving door or job hoppery. It's not really that, because it's, first of all, it's a major investment for organizations.
Yeah.
These are hard jobs to get. Like, don't forget, there's not, it's scarce demand and it's scarce supply, but these are hard positions to get, because these companies that can afford 130, 140, 150, they're going to have a good talent pool generally, especially if a recruiting organization is working on it. I'd say at least a couple of years. I mean, it's going to take you 6 months to figure out what the heck is going on in a big, sophisticated enterprise portal. Yeah. You got a bunch of there's probably some massive data dump from some old system. Okay, scratch off a few months of your brain. Then there's all the integrations. Scratch off another month or two to figure out what the heck is going on with all the integration stuff. So I don't know, 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years. That sounds fair. Yeah, it's very rare you get to walk into a very clean, brand new instance of any enterprise system. So if you see those, hop on that, because that.
So agree. It's so funny that you say that. We whenever we hear that, I talked about this with clients all the time. My favorite thing to hear is, okay, we just bought HubSpot. We're not even using it yet, and we already know we need an admin. I'm going, yes.
Yay.
Like this is the best thing to be able to reach out to our audience, our candidates, and go, hey, we got one. We got one that's not going to be a total disaster when you walk in, because we definitely see that too.
For sure. I appreciate that.
Let's see, what types of roles would you suggest a junior that is part of dev,
part admin, part data analysis, who's really talented, but only has about 1 year of experience to look for. They come from a technical background with no experience or marketing or sales strategy. Sounds like somebody needs a chat with one of your recruiters.
100%. Okay, that's an amazing place to start. So don't feel like you're at any sort of disadvantage. That might be like the perfect description of how you start the path toward admin. So first and foremost, do all the free things, right? Literally just become a master student of the HubSpot Academy, especially all of the technology, Sales Hub specific stuff. Like just go learn everything you can about Sales Hub, CRM, workflows, automation, reporting, dashboards, like just absorb as much of that as you can. And for earlier career people who know this is a path they want to take, almost certainly your best bet is land a gig at one of the HubSpot partners. Always hiring for earlier career, which probably means not super expensive yet, reasonably technical talent, right? Because the partners have the skill, they know HubSpot, and lots of them will have enough bandwidth, enough time to go, hey, if you know some basic coding and you know systems and you know integrations, we can teach you the HubSpot stuff in a couple months.
Yeah.
So best bet is
great springboard.
First of all, go to HubSearch.com and fill out a form, because that's an awesome profile for us. Like we can match you with partners. Go work at a partner for a couple of years. Do some of the paid stuff. Like again, if you know this is what you want to do the Super Admin Bootcamp, do the Master the Flywheel paid courses, and then in 3 years, let's say 2.5, 3 years, all of a sudden you're in that mid-career bracket. You're in that 85 to 125 range, and you can now start to compete for non-agency roles. And look, nothing against agencies. Agencies are amazing and there's incredible opportunity, but generally they're not going to pay quite as well as if you're able to land an in-house, like brand side HubSpot admin position.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's an awesome place to start.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely. I'm going to put the survey for today's hug in here. If you guys don't mind filling that out and letting us know what you thought. I already see some super helpful presentation thank yous in there. I do want to answer a couple more questions. We got about 5-ish minutes left. Kelly, the recording will be sent out. So as long as you registered, which you did because you're here, you will get that recording. Let's see. Where does it land when your title might not have matched, but 60 to 70% of your work revolved around HubSpot adminning?
I would so love to know what the current title is. What's your current title?
That was your question, Victoria. Marketing manager.
Okay, there's so many different things you can do. By the way, that's not super uncommon. Again, titles are super wonky in this world. It's just like this is not the world where if you're a software engineer, you're a software engineer, and you know what that means, and it's like marketing manager can be 75% admin. It just all depends on the company you're at. Victoria, right?
Yeah.
Be very clear about what you actually do on your LinkedIn profile.
We've got,
right?
we've got a lot of other
marketing, right? Like under marketing manager, make sure you've got a couple of bullet points about the most sophisticated technology work that you've done, so that when recruiters are searching through our network and looking for, so much of the way we find people that we don't know yet is keyword searching through LinkedIn. It just is. It's a big part of how we find people. So we talk about this a lot. You can't just have a LinkedIn profile that's like, marketing manager for 2 years, marketing coordinator for 1 year. You've got to put those bullet points in and curate those to what you want to do next. Write those for your next job.
For sure. Yeah, we've got digital operations specialist, marketing ops manager, director of sales ops. You can see the wide variety in those titles. They're all
If I could say one thing, it would be write those, have at least 3 bullet points and write them so that somebody looking for you or looking for a HubSpot admin is going to see that and go, oh, the title's a little bit off, but who cares? Like the stuff that they're doing is exactly what I need. So write it for your next job.
Megan wants to know what are those special keywords that you're searching for on LinkedIn?
Great question. Sales Hub Enterprise, right? A big part of what we have to do, like when we're filtering through, when we're interviewing candidates, let's say we get a HubSpot admin search, which we have like 5 of right now. You know, just to give you guys a sense for what we're seeing, we've got something like 19 or 20 live searches right now. And I should know this, but probably like 8 of them are HubSpot admin world. It's a huge chunk of what we do. One of the things we always have to think about is level of portal access you have. Because one of the things our clients lean on us for is like, hey, we know that somebody who is only ever seen pro level accounts, for example, isn't going to be able to manage and manipulate our custom object strategy. So make sure you talk about what level of HubSpot portal you're in. Make sure you call out any integrations, any API work, volume of data. The things with the common keywords that we see are like, you know, manipulating, managing, and creating really sophisticated workflows and integrations. If you've ever done a migration, please put that. That's a big thing we get asked for. Like, hey, we've got to we need somebody awesome, and they have to have seen at least one complicated migration because that's what they're going to do for their first 8 months. You know, where that's what they're going to help us get through. So that's a big part of it. If you've seen Service Hub, make sure the word Service Hub's in there. If you've seen Ops Hub, make sure the word Ops Hub in there. It's like give recruiters the ability to find you.
Got some requests for that kind of list when you're sending out your data. So
oh, for sure. So Bridget, my wife and business partner, she does tons of content on this. She runs the whole recruiting side of our business. She does all sorts of cool content on like, I'm a recruiter. Here's how I would be looking to find you. Make sure this stuff is in your, let me think about how I can share that stuff, and I'll try to include that in the follow-up email that I send out.
Yeah. So if anyone's trying to get in contact with you, what is the best way to connect with you? Is it your LinkedIn or email?
If it's me personally, for sure, LinkedIn. I mean, my email is Jason@HubSearch. Email me. I live for this stuff. Email me anything, any questions. I'm happy to follow up. If you actually want to go, hey, HubSearch, I want to be in your candidate pool. Like I want to tell you what my dream job is. And when you see it, ping me, go to HubSearch.com and fill out our candidate form. That literally gets you on our roster, and we'll get some data from you and we'll go, okay, cool. If we don't have it right now, which we might, if we don't have it this minute, as soon as we see that thing, we'll reach out to you. We've built this really cool candidate sorting mechanism in HubSpot. We hacked Service Hub to become a candidate management platform for us. That's awesome. It's worked out really nicely.
As it should be. Should be using HubSpot to sell HubSpot people.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Let me make sure we got the main questions. We do have they missed some content, but I know you're going to be sharing the 2023 information and the Master of the Flywheel.
Yeah, the salary guide, the salary guide itself probably won't be done by the time this email comes out. So I think what we're going to do, we'll put together a nice landing page that basically says like, stick your email on here, and the second the salary guide's ready, which is almost certainly this week or first thing next week, you'll be on the first list of people that get the salary guide. And then we'll put a link to the Master of the Flywheel competition. They actually built a really cool HubSpot quiz. It's like a 5 or 8 minute thing, and it spits out a score. It's pretty neat. So test yourselves. See if you can get 100 on the thing.
Yeah, let's see it, and then post it in the group. We want to celebrate your awesomeness. So definitely.
Totally.
Well, Jason,
I haven't seen 100 yet. So if anyone, if you can get 100, post it. Seriously, put it out on social. But like I got 100.
All right, make sure you guys post that. I want to celebrate somebody getting 100 out of our admin hug here. Where's the quiz? You'll include that in.
I'm going to send Deanna a whole email with all this stuff by next 24 hours. End of today, first thing tomorrow, I'll send it all to Deanna, and she'll distribute it out to you guys in the next 24 hours.
Awesome. Well, Jason, thank you so much. If anybody didn't get value out of this, They weren't listening. So we appreciate it. And hopefully we will see you again soon with another update of how amazing HubSpot admins are.
I love it. I love it. Deanna, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.